Hello, Mariana. Thank you so much for doing this. Let me start asking where you were born, where you are right now, and maybe some anecdotal story connecting the two places.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. Well, I was born in Argentina and I am living in Argentina, so I have not a huge thing to tell about that. Um, and I think the good thing I have to tell about that is that I made a decision to stay here because I, for my career, I had the chance to move, but I decided to try to do something different here. Of course, it is not an easy decision, and sometimes I ask myself why I decide to continue trying to do this in this challenging context. But because I know that in other contexts sometimes it's easier. But when I think of people here and family and friends and a lot of things that can be done despite of the place, and now in this global environment we do have with the internet and those kind of things. For example, this now that we are talking as we are in front of each other, we can see that it is possible. So, well, my
Yes.
living is
Well,
here.
I can identify a lot with you because I was also born in Rio, and I also chose to stay in Rio with all the challenges. Sometimes I think that if I was living in Boston or in San Diego, my valuation would be hundreds of millions of dollars. And now, but here, like nobody uh, uh, nobody even think of the concept of what is your personal valuation. On the other hand, I go out and I'm in Rio, and it's
I
very
see.
Rio has so many competitive advantages, so many problems, but so many competitive advantages. I can relate strongly to what you said. There's another story, something that I heard. I don't know where I read this, but it was also connected with something that you said, that globalization is bullshit. We were made to live where we grew up. Where the
Yes.
roots, the connections that you make while you are growing up, they are so strong that basically it's very difficult to replace. So I understand this difficult choice of staying in a challenging context. And so maybe in this challenging, even though we are in challenging contexts, maybe especially right now, right? I think these are especially challenging times, not just because of the pandemic, but because of the political context in both our countries. Um, how do you see the world in general, and over time, like? Is it better or is it worse? And we can even give a Latin American perspective to it, because yes, maybe 30 years ago was even worse than it is now, right?
Yes. Well, maybe I am a bit optimistic about that. I think that, of course, it is also a very, very broad question because we may speak about an average. And of course, I think that we are better now compared to several years ago, of course, from Latin American, Argentinian perspective. In average, we are better in some aspects, but in others, we are very bad or not evolving in terms of, of evolution. So in average, I think we're better. For example, in my case, I think of 100 years ago, it was almost impossible for a woman to go to university and to study and to focus on science. And in my case, I grow just with the interest in science and biotechnology and all that and biology, and I was always surprised by nature. And it was never a problem to go to university to study to do all that in many years ago that was completely impossible. So in from that perspective, I think that we have made really a lot of improvements, and we have a better world of choices and opportunities. But it is also true that there are many basic topics that I don't know we haven't improved, or even they are getting worse. There are some inequities that are getting worse.
Yes.
And I think that are the challenges we are, of course, obliged to think about and to find the way to make it work and make it better for the future. But of course, it's a difficult question, no? Especially in this context that the pandemic is very, I don't know, it's like underlying, the good and the bad of everything. So it's a very challenging
And
question.
when you look ahead, what are the, if you can list two, three, or even maybe just one big challenge that you mentioned inequality, and would you say that this is the top priority, or would you list some other big challenges or small challenges?
Well, I think that we have a lot of challenges to work, especially because everything is moving. We are living in a huge change in terms of technology, the way of living, how work will be in the future, so how relationships will be managed in the future. Sometimes for us that we are the X generation, for us we had a life without internet and then a life with internet. So for us we
We can
live that.
compare.
Yes, of course, we have that situation that we can compare, but for the next generations, they just are already born with this reality that for us it's quite difficult also to understand. No, I think that that is a huge challenge to understand reality with an environment or a dimension that was not real in the past, that doesn't exist at all in the past. So for us, we can manage your, I don't know, for example, your Facebook friends and your real life friends. But sometimes for young generations, they think that they are the same, and it can has a huge impact in their emotions, and just the like is a lot. And for us, probably, well, we can prioritize differently. So I think that will be a huge challenge. How human beings will be human, and will not forget the values, and will not forget I mean, the human, strong human connection. So I think that our huge challenge is how we will keep on being humans with the higher values of humanity. So I think it's
Yes,
that.
this. So, like, I saw 2 years ago, I went to an innovation workshop in Portugal, and there was this short video, um, kind of inviting people to go to Portugal, live there, and it was very nice. But they said something that that stayed with me, which is human beings were made to sense the world through its senses, right? To vision, audition, touch. And my hope in what you're saying is that this is so strong that we'll always, if and maybe like you can fool your senses for a while, but you cannot fool all your senses all the time. And this we will at least keep coming back eventually to this basic need of touching, of hugging. And maybe the pandemic has brought us a little bit to
Yes.
this, because making hugging and kissing so difficult and even dangerous, we somehow started to see the value of, and how we miss this, right? At least in my case, I'm not I don't oppose masks, but I hate them. I don't like them. It's
Mm.
never going to be something that I will gladly accept, because I think it takes some of our humanity, like you said, and of course it's the same with the this technology. This technology is great that we can talk even though we are, thousands of kilometers away, but it was much nicer when we were in San Francisco during
Yes.
Eisenhower meeting and talking in person. So like, let's hope this humanity in us, these senses, will keep bringing us back to this nature and reminding us of this importance of, like
Yes.
that, how important it is to us.
Yes, and also I think that talking about specifically COVID-19, it's this virus causes the loss of smell. For example, it's a typical, and
Yeah,
smell for us probably was not the main thing in the
until
world.
you lose it.
But until you lose it, when you lose it, you say, well, I had a lot of things that were connected to that, because many areas of our brain, memories and things, and some many smells makes us remind. I mean, it bring memories from our childhood or pleasant times or places. And say, wow, that was so basic. It's so basic, but gives us so many happiness and satisfaction, and wow, and that's something that is not so easy to replace or to change, as the same as hugging. No, it's exactly the same, and it's something so powerful for us that maybe we don't realize until we are facing the situation of not having it, or having it altered, because it is also
Yes.
something that is happening, that people is smelling, and some smells that were nice now are awful. And that, I don't know, situation of having a great cup of coffee now is the worst in the
Yeah.
world. And that's terrible, because we that was so small but was so nice, and now we are losing that, and it's
Wow, and
really terrible
it's
to do
even
that.
connected with. I read this article once ago talking about the dopamine expectations and the dopamine mechanisms connected to expectations, and how in the presence of an expectation, and I remember the article because they were giving exactly the example of a cup of coffee. Like when you buy the coffee, you find like the brand that you like, so all the way going home you build the expectation of this great cup of coffee, and that it starts to build up. You start to build up dopamine, and when you actually take the cup of coffee, if you fulfill the expectation, you have a dopamine shot. But if you, I don't know, the milk was spoiled, and it's, or you have anosmia because of coffee and you don't feel anything, the dopamine drop makes you feel terrible. No, and
Yes.
this is connect all these memories of smell. It's, so what I'm saying is it has a kind of network effect, right? Because of all
Exactly.
these reward mechanisms in the brain. Mariana, usually I'm asking another question, but um, because I know that you have a background in pharma industry and everything, and we brought this. Are we going to try to manipulate the this humanity to fit into this new tech world, this new reality? How do you see this possibility, or even this? Uh, um, yeah, let's keep possibility. Don't know if the question is like it was coming to my mind
No,
as
no,
we
no, it's
speak.
okay. I will see if I understand the question. I don't want to answer something that maybe it's not related, but um,
Let me give you an example. Okay, some years ago, I was in a talk um, by a sociologist, Domenico De Masi, and he was saying that look, um, eventually being unfaithful will be cheating, will be cheating without getting caught will be impossible, because there's always going to be a camera here, a Google Glass there, anything. So he said that the pharma industry was already developing anti-jealousy compounds. So maybe that's where don't know if this is the best example, but while we were talking, I can see that our brain has these reward mechanisms, and it took us a million years to evolve them, maybe even more, and they're not going to change anytime soon. So we either or we are going to get more and more and more frustrated, or we will try to, like correct
Well,
some of
no,
those mechanisms.
yes, I
Is it in our future, or do you think this is too much science
no,
fiction?
no, I don't think it's science fiction, because it is also it is also true that there are many of our current brain mechanisms that, as you said, takes a lot of years to evolve, and it is evolving, but it takes a lot of time to do that. And sometimes what I see as a huge risk is that sometimes technology uses that just to, I don't know, add information in our brains just to change our behavior and convince us that we need to eat a pizza, and that kind of things.
I'm very
For
easy
me,
to convince to eat a
it's
pizza.
very
Very,
easy to
very easy.
convince us, definitely. But but what I see is that mechanism is already studied, and instead of finding a way to help people to be much more I don't know, as a free person, we are maybe sometimes it's working in the right opposite direction. I see that as a huge risk. In the same way, we as human beings, many times, I have seen a movie that explains an experiment that was done in the past, that they take this, I don't know the appropriate word in English, so sorry for that. But the concept was that if someone gives you a direction, sometimes the person didn't realize what was the impact of its actions just because it was an order. So that for me was surprising, because I said, wow, we are really so, we have when we compare to, I don't know, a microscope, we don't have the appropriate, sensibility, how it is in English,
Sensitivity.
sensitivity, exactly, to realize that we are doing harm or not. And it's part of our limitation as human beings. So that for me was a risk. If this technology can be, I don't know, seen for us, for our brains as a game, and probably we are doing a huge harm, and we are not realizing because we are following an order, or we're thinking that it's just a game. So I agree with you that our brain will not move so quickly, because nature is really brilliant, and it has much more years than human beings. Because if we analyze bacteria or different organisms that are having millions of years of evolution, they have their own mechanisms that are brilliant, and many times we have not even discovered them yet. For example, if we think of organisms that live in extreme environments, we probably do not have the instruments to study them.
Yeah.
And we are speaking about the future and everything, like very huge things, and sometimes we have things just next to us and we are not able to discover it. So I think that we should be not so proud as human beings of our, or we have to be much more considerate, because our other living organisms in this world have a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. The nature has a lot of wisdom that we have to understand and respect. So I don't know if technology goes in line with that. Maybe we will. really do great things. But if we
And
are in the right opposite, I don't know.
you said something that caught my attention. Like, yes, these tech companies, they use these brain mechanisms that were developed by nature to somehow enslave us. But we could do the opposite, right? We could use the same mechanisms to free us from this slavery. And it came to my mind, for example, psychedelics, right? These new compounds that, well, sometimes not so new. They are used for a long time, but they are used now in this new context of giving you experiences that are not tech, that they happen inside you. And I was thinking about this, the potential of, don't want to don't want to be don't connect this specific with the psychedelics, but it was kind of an example of something that can give you a meaningful mind experience that is not related to a tech gadget.
Yes, and what I think also is that sometimes with this kind of algorithms that predicts what you want and predicts what you need and predicts what you want to do, in a way, we are also training our brains in the right opposite of creativity and doing new things and really innovation. Because in a way, if our brain always receives the same information, the same stimulus, the same things all the time, we will be, I mean, wrong, um, thinking that the reality is just that, you know. So um, I think that, of course, we can do that, but we have to be conscious of that. I don't know if
Yes.
everyone is really conscious that they are using their brains, and sometimes many people think that it's amazing that you arrive home and your computer tells you everything you need and everything you want. Probably it's not what you need and what you want, and it's part of knowing ourselves as human beings, and also which are the priorities. And priorities, maybe it's not only ourselves; it's also our families, our friends, our environment. Um, so maybe those algorithms are, as you said, are creativity killers. You know, I agree. It's like that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at the same time, when I read Harari and *Sapiens*, and but I don't think it's in *Sapiens* or if it's in *Oh My God*. One of his books, he talks strongly about these biological algorithms, right? Because these are everything is inside us. Like biochemistry are
Mhm.
very strict
Yes.
algorithms, right? It's just so many of them, and they create so many interactions between them, but they are very, very strict algorithms. So it would be interesting to see how we can fight back using biochemical algorithms to fight back these tech slave algorithms, because yes, they do exist. They are there.
I agree.
And well, this took a different but very interesting direction. Like, can you tell us a little bit, right, what you are doing right now, and how do you see this connected with some of these challenges moving forward to try to make the world a better, keep making the world a better place?
Well, I've always been a nerd. I, I've always loved studying and and all that. And fortunately, there are a lot of different people in this world, and we are almost different, and that's amazing. Uh, but why I am telling you this, because I always enjoyed a lot studying, and I love it, and I love learning. And for me, is always amazing. I'm like a child, you know, when I learn something new about, I don't know, nature, or I see something that I was completely out of my knowledge, and I really feel surprised, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction. So in line with that, I've always appreciate the brain, the use of the brain, and the opportunity of thinking, and the opportunity of hearing many different points of view and perspectives, and trying to achieve a conclusion that is a part of my opportunity of seeing what I have the opportunity to see and to hear and to learn. And in line with that, I had a personal situation that I was with some kids here. I thought that that kind of nice memories when you are a kid can be built despite of the situation you were living and so on. Um, I realized that those kids were receiving always the same food, and that food was not very nutritious. So what really had a huge impact in me was, well, these kids will not have the opportunity to think. These kids will not have the opportunity of enjoying learning as I am doing. And I said, well, that's not fair. That was my main concern was it is not fair. It's not it's not human to do this, you know, because they don't have the opportunity to choose. And I say, well, what can I do apart from being angry? No, so what can I do? What can I do with this? And I said, well, I will try to find a good partner, and I start making a research in nature and say, well, what can give these kids a good nutritional food without changing the current way of eating, because that will be very difficult from the cultural perspective. So that's why I've started to work with microalgae and cyanobacteria. Um, my objective is to make daily food with adding this organism as ingredients, and the objective of that is to improve that profile. And of course, my heart is put on that. I say I want to contribute to at least one brain. You know, with one I am more than happy, but at
That's
least one.
no, that's beautiful because the way you put is you are freeing the. We go back to the slavery of the algorithms, right? You want the brain to be free, and this is beautiful. And it cannot be free if the biochemical algorithms are not there, right? They are not
Exactly.
fed. So like if they, well, they require energy. These algorithms require energy to work, and if you don't provide the energy, then the algorithms are dead.
Yes, or
And all
will
the,
not function, you know, in the most efficient or most powerful way they could have if
yeah,
they
they
receive
don't
everything they
execute
need.
all their potential. What you're saying is it's beautiful the way you connect things to the brain, and I wonder if we should try to change some metaphors. For example, that emotions come from the heart. Think with your heart, not with the look. Your heart doesn't feel anything. It's also your brain. Like and you are talking with your stomach, not with your brain. No, no, it's also your brain. Like you know. So I think that sometimes the brain comes with this with the reasoning, with the sense, as if the sensitivity was somewhere else, and it's not. It's all the brain. So freeing the brain should be our number one priority. And it's very beautiful the way you talk about what you are doing as a brain releasing mechanism. Look, I have three survey questions before I let you go. The first one is which book you are reading right now?
Ah, I'm reading a really interesting book. I have to find the name in English because I will. It is exactly this. I brought it to you. El aroma del tiempo. I don't know if you have read it.
No.
I will tell you exactly the name in English because I wanted to find the appropriate translation. And It is called The Scent of Time.
Okay.
Um, it is interesting because it's an essay about the difference. I mean, it explains our current life, our way of living, that we are all the time running, 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 running. And this book reflects of the situation of why are we running so much and how this running everyday stressed life makes us losing a lot of things that only comes with time.
Yeah.
So that's why it speaks about the smell. And it is
Yes.
interesting to see because it says why we what we have as a huge difference between species, human beings, compared to other species, is the possibility of contemplation. So instead of being every day working, working, working with no specific direction in many cases, well, why we do that? Why we put that as a value when many of the things that are really worthy needs time, and we just have to
This is
learn
amazing.
how to wait.
Yeah,
And
I'm very interested right now in the topic of low time preference and high time preference. And so it comes, I will surely put the book in my list. The second question maybe
yeah.
could be related to what you're saying. Like, do you take short or long lunch breaks?
Wow, that's a good question. That because this book is also a challenge for me. I run a lot, so many times I even don't stop to have lunch. But when I make an effort to find 1, 2, 3, 4 a week to organize lunch with people, and we obliged ourselves to have a long lunch because
Wow,
we
that's
do that
amazing.
just to talk and to learn and how we are and to follow up about our lives. And I think that that's much more important than food,
Yeah,
no?
and we realize how productive the longer we do short lunch breaks to try to be more productive, and we don't realize how productive the long lunch breaks are, right?
Exactly, yes.
And being from Argentina, I'm very interested in this, in the answer to this last question. Like Bitcoin, are you a believer or a non-believer, or or you don't know anything about it?
No, I think that I have, it's half and half for me now
Do you
because
have
I,
any
my
Bitcoin
brother
or
has.
any
I don't
cryptocurrency?
because I'm not so good on that, but my brother does. Um, for in a way for our history in Argentina, we don't have much confidence in the traditional ways, of the importance of values of currency and so on. So it has a chance from that perspective. Um, from the other side, so new that we don't know if it will be continued or it will be, I don't know, just a bubble. We don't know. So for me, I have both are valid, and I think depending on the risk you want to take, you can try it. I mean,
Yes,
I don't see something really negative to say no. I do not agree, and I'm not so confident it will be a long-term
great.
decision.
Well, get some exposure. Tell your brother to get some for you. Get some exposure to it, because, like you
Yes, yes,
said,
yes.
the risk to, the risk that it works, and but like I can see, uh, um, maybe we have been so mistreated in Latin America when it comes to our currencies. I was seeing in my lifetime, in, money has changed names 4 or 5 times, and like the money in the bank has been seized by the bank or the government more than once, and I can see how this lack of trust that this experience is built on us even impact us in trusting innovation. Like, maybe this is another, but like, we were so our confidence has been so tested, and that we become even a little bit sarcastic, maybe. But let's talk
Yeah.
about this more some other time. Mariana, thank you so much for doing this. It was really nice.
Thank
Let's
you.
talk again some other time.
Yes, sure. It was my pleasure. Really. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.